What if one single glance could change the direction of a man's entire life? He had spent years running from his past, from pain, from anything that looked like attachment. But the moment the cowboy laid eyes on her, he stopped leaving. And what happened next, no one in that quiet town could have predicted. Before we begin, if you believe some stories aren't just told, they're felt, hit subscribe. Because this one, it stays with you. He wasn't the kind of man who stayed. People in the western stretch between Texas and Oklahoma had seen his kind before. Dust-covered boots, worn leather jacket, a horse that looked just as tired as its rider, and eyes that never settled long enough to belong anywhere. He'd come into towns like a passing storm, quiet, distant, gone before sunrise. No one knew his real name. They called him Ridge. And Ridge had a rule: never stay longer than 3 days. Not after what happened, not after her. The road had been his only companion for years. Every mile he rode was a mile between him and a memory he refused to face. He didn't stop for friendships, didn't linger for kindness, didn't even glance twice at anyone who might try to know him. Until the day he rode into Silver Creek. It was a small town, barely a handful of buildings stitched together by dust roads and stubborn hope. The kind of place people ended up in, not passed through. Ridge hadn't meant to stop. But his horse had, right in front of a broken-down fence outside a modest ranch at the edge of town. That's when he saw her. She wasn't dressed like the women he'd seen in towns before, no polished boots or bright dresses meant to catch eyes. Her sleeves were rolled up, hands rough from work, hair tied back in a loose braid that had started to come undone in the wind. She was trying to fix the fence. Alone. And she was losing the fight. A plank slipped, nearly knocking her off balance, but before it could fall, Ridge was already off his horse, catching it midair without a word. She turned sharply, startled. Their eyes met, and something shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just stillness. Like the world paused for a second. Neither of them understood. "Thanks," she said, brushing dirt from her hands, trying to regain composure. Most folks just ride past. Ridge didn't answer right away. He was looking at her like he was trying to remember something he'd forgotten a long time ago. "I don't," he finally said. It wasn't entirely true, but for some reason, it felt like it should be. Her name was Eliza. She'd inherited the ranch after her father passed, along with more debt than land was worth. Most people in town assumed she'd sell it, leave, start over somewhere easier. But Eliza didn't look like someone who walked away, even when everything told her she should. Ridge fixed the fence that day. Then the gate. Then the roof when a storm rolled through that night. 3 days passed. Then 4. Then a week. And for the first time in years, he didn't leave. At first, he told himself it was temporary. Just helping out. Just passing time. But the truth was quieter. Harder to admit. Every time he thought about leaving, something pulled him back. It was in the way she worked without complaining. In the way she laughed, even when things went wrong. In the way she never asked questions he wasn't ready to answer. She didn't try to fix him. And somehow, that made him want to stay. But Silver Creek wasn't as peaceful as it looked. There was a man named Calder. He owned most of the land surrounding the town, and what he didn't own, he intended to. Eliza's ranch was one of the last pieces he needed. He'd offered to buy it more than once. She'd refused every time, and Calder wasn't used to hearing no. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in deep amber, Calder rode up with 2 men behind him. Ridge saw them first. Something in his posture changed instantly. Protective, alert, dangerous. "Eliza," Calder called out, his tone smooth but sharp underneath. Still fighting a losing battle. She stood her ground, not interested. Calder's eyes shifted to Ridge. "Didn't know you had company." Ridge didn't speak, but he didn't move either. Calder smirked. "Careful, cowboy. This place has a way of swallowing men who think they can change things." Ridge finally stepped forward. "I'm not here to change anything," he said quietly. "Then you're in the wrong place," Calder replied, before turning his horse and riding off. But the warning lingered. That night, Eliza found Ridge sitting outside, staring into the dark. "You don't have to stay," she said gently. He didn't look at her. "I know. But you are." A long silence. Then, finally, "I left someone once," he said. Her breath caught slightly. "I told myself it was the right thing. That staying would only make things worse." He paused. I was wrong. Eliza didn't ask more. She just sat beside him. And for the first time in years, Ridge didn't feel like running. Days turned into weeks. Something real began to grow between them, not rushed, not forced, just steady. Until the fire came. It started in the dead of night. By the time Ridge smelled smoke, the barn was already burning. He rushed out, shouting for Eliza. They fought the flames together, but it was too late. By morning, half the ranch was gone. And in the ashes, a message. A single word burned into a wooden post. Sell. Calder. Eliza stood there, staring at everything she'd lost. Ridge watched her carefully, waiting for her to break. She didn't. Instead, she turned to him and said, "We rebuild." And something inside him broke instead. Because he realized something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of losing the ranch. He was afraid of losing her. And for the first time, he had something worth staying for. That's when Calder made his final move. He returned, not with offers, but with force. What followed wasn't just a fight for land. It was a fight for belonging. For redemption. For a man who had spent his life leaving, learning what it meant to stay. And when it was over, when the dust settled and the silence returned, Ridge stood where he once would have ridden away. Eliza beside him, the ranch still standing, not perfect, but theirs. She looked at him, searching. You still planning to leave? He met her eyes. And this time, he didn't hesitate. No, because the moment the cowboy laid eyes on her, something didn't just make him stop leaving. It made him finally come home. If you want, I can.